Every night, the same thing happens. Your body is tired, but your mind won't switch off. You get into bed with the intention of falling asleep quickly, and instead of resting, you start replaying the day, anticipating tomorrow, judging yourself for what you did or didn't do. And the more you try to force sleep, the more awake you feel. The problem isn't that you can't sleep. The problem is that you haven't let go. You're still trying to solve on your pillow things that don't depend on you right now. And while you fight to stay in control, rest quietly slips away. What you're about to hear are direct, grounded, and deep Stoic reflections designed for one simple purpose: to help you stop fighting what you cannot change tonight. When you accept that, your body lowers its guard. And when your body lowers its guard, sleep comes much faster. If you're in bed and your mind won't slow down, stay with me. This time, we're not going to think more. We're going to learn how to let go. Before we continue, tell me something in the comments. What time is it right now in your country? And where are you trying to fall asleep from? I like to think that even if we're far apart, we're sharing this same quiet moment. If these reflections are helping you disconnect and sleep more peacefully, you can subscribe to have this space waiting for you each night. And if you'd like to support the channel and be more involved, you can also become a member. Now, relax. Let's begin. First lesson: if you want to sleep peacefully, understand that fear lives in your mind. When night comes and you lie down in bed, the world goes quiet, but your head does not. Scenes begin to appear that are not happening right now. Conversations that could go wrong. Decisions that might fail. Problems that don't even exist yet. Your heart beats a little faster, your chest tightens, and sleep drifts further away. It feels as if there is a real fire out there somewhere, when in truth everything is happening inside your mind. Imagine a firefighter standing in front of a burning building. The heat presses against him, the smoke makes it hard to breathe, and every second feels heavy. His body urges him to run. The fear is there, of course it is. But if he allows that trembling to control him, everything is lost. So he steps forward, not because he feels no fear, but because he understands that fear cannot be allowed to direct his actions. He responds to what is within his control and accepts what is not. Now change the scene. There is no fire, no sirens, no immediate danger. It's just you in bed, in a quiet room. And yet your mind creates imaginary flames. It anticipates failure, exaggerates mistakes, repeats accusations as if you were on trial, and your body reacts as though the fire were real. That is the key. It is not the situation stealing your sleep. It is your judgment about it. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." That sentence becomes especially powerful at night, because as you lie there, none of those feared scenarios are actually happening. The only thing that is real is your interpretation, and that is within your control. Think about all the times you imagined the worst and it never happened. How many hours of sleep have you given away to problems that never arrived? Nighttime fear is almost always a film your mind projects into the darkness, and the more you watch it, the more convincing it feels. This is where the Stoic practice begins, the one that helps you fall asleep faster. When an image of failure or danger appears, don't fight it aggressively. Look at it and ask yourself, is this happening right now? If the answer is no, your body can begin to relax. There is no fire, no flames, only thoughts. You can also shift the scene. If your mind insists on showing you defeat, imagine with equal clarity the situation resolved. See the conversation going better than expected, the problem handled calmly, your posture steady and composed. This is not naive fantasy. It is training your brain not to constantly rehearse the worst possible outcome. And tomorrow, when morning comes, take one small real step toward what you fear. One concrete action, however small. That shows your mind you are not running away. That fear is not in charge. That alignment between thought and action slowly reduces the trembling. What matters tonight is something simple. The fear keeping you awake is not in the room. It is in your interpretation. And just as you created it, you can weaken it. When you stop giving power to imagined scenarios, your body lowers its guard, your breathing slows, your muscles soften, and little by little, without forcing it, sleep begins to come closer. You don't need to eliminate fear in order to sleep. You need to stop believing everything your mind whispers in the dark. That is true Stoic indifference, and it is one of the most direct paths to a peaceful night. Lesson 2. Close every door to temptation. Tell me something. How many times have you said you were going to change something, yet kept everything nearby that could make you slip? How many times have you promised to start fresh, but without realizing it, you set yourself up to fail? My friend, it's not that you lack willpower. It's that you're leaving the door wide open for the enemy. And I'm not talking about some imaginary enemy. I'm talking about the part of you that takes advantage of the first slip to push you back into your old habits. The part that doesn't want you to kill your weak version once and for all, because it feeds on every concession you make. Think of a castle at war. The army guarding it doesn't wait until the enemy is 10 meters away to raise the drawbridge. It keeps it closed at all times, because once the enemy gets inside, kicking them out is 1,000 times harder. Your life works the same way. Temptations don't politely wait for you to say no. They come in uninvited, and if your door is open, you've already lost half the battle. Here's a simple example that might sound familiar. You want to eat healthier, but in your kitchen you have cookies, chips, and ice cream, just in case someone comes over. One day you come home from work exhausted, your mind full of problems, and there's your weak self, rubbing its hands together, reminding you just how good that package you saved tastes. That just in case turns into just today, and just today turns into the norm. Ryan Holiday, writer and modern Stoic, does something smart when he's working on a book. He shuts down social media, blocks internet access on his work computer, and isolates himself from any distraction. Not because he's some superhuman who can ignore temptation all day, but because he knows that if you leave a door open, sooner or later something will come in. And temptations are the same. If they can get in, they will. Habits are maintained far more by controlling your environment than by sheer self-control. Think about it. How many times have you slipped? Not because you didn't have the strength, but because what tempted you was right in front of you. Most of the time, we don't relapse because we're weak. We relapse because we live surrounded by traps we set for ourselves. And the ironic part is, those traps aren't hidden. They're right there, staring you in the face, daring you to fall again. Epictetus put it clearly. No one is free who is not master of himself. Being master of yourself doesn't mean resisting the irresistible every day. It means not putting yourself in situations where you have to resist. It's not about proving you can handle everything. It's about making sure what weakens you never even gets the chance to come close. So, what can you do? First, make your temptations invisible. If you want to stop eating something, don't keep it at home. If you want to spend less time on your phone, leave it in another room while you work or study. If you want to quit a bad habit, remove the objects or access points that make it easier. Second, prepare easy alternatives for moments you know you're vulnerable. If you get home late and hungry, have something quick and healthy ready. If you struggle to get moving, lay out your workout clothes the night before. And third, design your space so that what's good for you is always within reach. A book on the table instead of the remote, a bottle of water instead of soda, a notebook instead of the app that eats your time. Every time you close a door, you're not just keeping out temptation. You're taking power away from the part of you that wants to keep you the same. The part that feeds on your excuses, your "I'll start tomorrow," your small but constant concessions. That weak version doesn't need an invitation. It just needs a gap. And if you close every door, it can't get in. It's not about living in an impenetrable fortress, it's about building an environment that plays in your favor. Because if you think about it, most of your life is the result of small repeated decisions. And those decisions are far easier to win when your surroundings push you in the right direction. So today, don't just think about what you want to achieve. Think about what doors you have open right now. What in your life, even if it seems harmless, is giving your weak version a chance to appear. If you can spot it, you can shut it. And when you do, you'll see that moving toward your best self isn't about infinite willpower. It's about strategic intelligence. Because in the end, temptation is like an unwanted guest. It doesn't call ahead, and if it finds the door open, it'll walk right in. Your job is to lock it, secure it, and make it clear who's in charge here. And every time you keep it out, that part of you that's always tried to hold you back loses power, while your best self gains ground. Lesson 3. Break free from your old self. My friend, let me ask you something, but I want you to be honest with your answers. Why do you keep checking your phone every 5 minutes when you know you have more important things to do? Why do you say you want to be disciplined, yet every time your alarm goes off, you hit snooze? Why do you keep complaining about your life while repeating the same habits that got you here in the first place? Let's be clear. You're still dragging around a version of yourself that's holding you back. You keep falling into the same weak habits. You keep allowing your past self to stay in control. And the worst part? Deep down, you know it. So if you keep carrying around the version of you that fails, how do you expect to succeed? Imagine yourself lost in the middle of the ocean. You've been drifting aimlessly for days. No land in sight. No idea where you are or where to go. The sun is burning, the water is running out, and desperation is taking over. But you keep making the same choices that got you lost in the first place. You keep letting the currents pull you wherever they want, trusting luck, hoping that somehow things will change on their own. Until one day, something inside you wakes up. You realize that if you keep following the same plan, you'll stay lost. So you take control of the helm, you study the sun and the stars, and you row with everything you have in a clear direction. And then, on the horizon, you finally see land. But here's the important part. When you reach the shore, you set fire to your boat. You destroy it. You burn it to ashes, because there is no going back. You can't return to the sea where you were lost. You won't allow yourself to go back to the version of you that didn't know what to do. And that, my friend, is the key. Breaking free from your old self. I know you want to change. You want to be more disciplined, more efficient, stronger. You want to stop wasting time, stop procrastinating, stop betraying yourself with cheap excuses. But that won't happen until you break away from the identity that's keeping you chained to those habits. So let's do something right now. Grab a piece of paper and write down everything that belongs to your old self. But don't just write it, draw it. It doesn't matter if you're not an artist. Make a doodle, a stick figure, whatever. But give form to that you that's been holding you back. What does it look like? Is it tired? Is it glued to a phone screen? Is it slumped on the couch watching TV saying, "I'll start tomorrow"? Give it a face, give it an attitude, and most importantly, make it ridiculous. Because it's time to see that weak version of yourself for what it really is, an obstacle in your way. Take a good look at it. There it is, your old self. Now write down everything that defines it. First, list the habits that are holding you back. Do you struggle to wake up early? Do you lose hours on social media without realizing it? Do you want to work out, but you always end up on the couch? Then write down your fears. Fear of failure. Fear of what others will say. Fear of putting in effort and not seeing results right away. And finally, write down every excuse you keep repeating in your head. I don't have time. I don't have energy. I'm not as good as other people. Write down everything you no longer want to be. Everything that's been holding you back. Everything you need to leave behind. Now, destroy it. Rip it to pieces, burn it, throw it in the trash, do whatever it takes. But eliminate it from your identity. Because the truth is this, your old self died today. And now, tell me, what will you do with the new one? Will you keep carrying the weight of who you used to be? Or will you finally start acting like the person you truly want to become? Lesson 4. Falling is part of the plan. Did you know that before Elvis Presley became known as the King of Rock, Someone told him he had no future in music. After a casting where he gave it everything, the feedback was blunt. You'd be better off going back to driving trucks. Imagine that blow. A young man full of hope singing his heart out waiting for a chance, and all he gets is a door slammed in his face. Anyone would have trembled thinking their dream had just died on the spot. But Elvis kept going, and that's exactly what the Stoics would have done. Not give up after the first fall, but see it as a test of character. That's the mistake so many of us make. We think that failing means we're not cut out for something, that we're just not good enough. But no, failure is part of the journey. The Stoics saw it that way. Failure wasn't a curse, it was a teacher. If life shook you, it wasn't to break you, it was to train you. Marcus Aurelius spoke about accepting that every day would come with obstacles. He didn't see that as a tragedy, but as a chance to grow stronger. He said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." And if you think about it, it makes sense. What you're calling failure today isn't a wall blocking your path. It's a step that forces you to grow so you can keep moving. It's the stone that looked like an obstacle, but once you place it under your feet, it becomes part of your staircase. Of course it hurts, rejection, falling down, embarrassment. It all weighs on you, and it makes you tremble if you see it as punishment. But from a Stoic point of view, pain isn't the enemy, it's raw material. Every mistake is the gym where your character trains. If you run from the obstacle, the trembling stays with you. If you face it, it turns into strength. Think of something as simple as learning to ride a bike. We all fell at first, scraped our knees, got up angry and frustrated. If as kids we had said, "This isn't for me, I already failed," none of us would know how to ride today. The difference is that back then, we didn't even have the word failure in our heads. We just understood that we had to try again. Studies show something very simple. When you fail, your brain doesn't go blank. You know what it does? It starts rewiring, looking for new routes. It's like there's a mechanic inside your head fine-tuning the engine so next time it works better. Every mistake makes you stronger, but only if you dare to keep going. Because if you stop there, the only thing you're training is the fear of trying again. Picture this. You dream of traveling to another country, walking down new streets, trying different food, meeting people from another culture. You almost convince yourself to go, but then your mind starts firing off fears. What if I get lost? What if I can't understand the language? What if something happens and I don't know how to react? And in the end, you close the tab with the plane ticket and decide to stay put. It wasn't the money or the time that held you back. It was the trembling that showed up before you even started. That's where the key lies. If you want to overcome that fear, you have to change the way you see failure. Don't think of it as a catastrophe. Think of it as part of the journey. Maybe you do get lost on a street in Rome, and it turns into the best story of your life. Maybe you mispronounce a word in Paris and someone laughs, but that mistake teaches you how to say it right next time. Every failure is a test that strengthens your character. Instead of waiting to feel confident before you take the leap, start failing small. Buy a train ticket to a nearby town, get lost on purpose, practice that muscle that tolerates mistakes. That's how you fail fast to learn fast. When you start seeing mistakes as practice, the trembling starts to lose its power. Same thing with language. Instead of thinking, "I have to speak perfectly," dare to say short phrases, even if they come out wrong. Every word you mess up is another stone in your bridge to fluency. The secret is in normalizing the fall, not avoiding it. And most importantly, change your inner judgment. If something goes wrong one day, don't say, "I'm terrible at traveling." Ask yourself instead, "What did I learn today that will make me a better traveler tomorrow?" That simple shift turns every error into useful data, not a sentence. Elvis was rejected, just like so many other artists, entrepreneurs, and athletes before they succeeded. What set them apart wasn't that they never failed. It was that they never let failure define them. And that's the Stoic lesson. The outside world can shake you, but it can't force you to give up. Real strength is in how you respond. Now you're ready to stop trembling at the thought of failure. Embrace the fall as part of the process, because in the end, what you call failure today is the very stone that's preparing you to build something greater tomorrow. Lesson 5. Your strength is already there, you just hide it. My friend, how many times have you thought you couldn't handle something, and then, when there was no other choice, you did? How many times have you reacted to a crisis as if you'd always known what to do, even though you were shaking inside? And how many times, after pulling it off, have you found yourself saying, "I didn't know I could"? Picture this. In your own backyard, right under your feet, there's a chest that's been buried for years. Inside, there are no jewels or coins, but something far more valuable. All the tools you need to face any challenge and win. They've been there all along, but one day, without realizing it, you started covering it with dust, dry leaves and dirt. Every excuse, every fear, every "I can't" was another layer on top. So it's not that you've lost your strength, it's that you've buried it yourself under tons of habit and self-limitations. I'm sure you've had a moment when that chest opened on its own. You're at work and suddenly a crisis hits. An important client calls, furious, demanding answers right away. Normally, you'd let someone else handle it. But that day you didn't. Without thinking, you took control. You spoke calmly, measured every word, steered the conversation, and within minutes, the storm was gone. When you hung up, you stood there for a second thinking, "I didn't know I could do that." And there's the truth, you always could, but you had forgotten. That's your real strength, the one that shows up when your weak version doesn't have time to get in the way. You don't have to invent a new strength, my friend. You just have to remember you already carry it inside. The same thing happened to Diana Niad, the swimmer who, at 64, swam from Cuba to Florida. She had tried decades earlier without success, but never gave up. When she finally made it, she said, "It's not about being younger or stronger. It's about deciding you already are." It wasn't a miracle. It was digging deep enough to find what had always been there. Marcus Aurelius wrote it in his Meditations. "Look within yourself. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig." He wasn't talking about creating something new, but about clearing away the dirt, about stopping yourself from burying your own capacity. Your best self isn't hidden in some distant future, but under layers of thoughts telling you it's not the right time. You're not ready. Something's missing. Haven't you noticed? When you act without giving your doubts time to speak, your natural response is far more decisive and confident. What changes isn't your ability. It's the space you give that part of you that always wants to hold you back. That's why, if you want to stop living as if you were weak, we're going to do it in 3 clear steps. And yes, my friend, no excuses. Right now, remember a specific moment when you acted as your best self without even planning it. Maybe it was that time you stood up for a teammate in a meeting, or when you solved a tricky situation at home in minutes. No, I think once I might have. I want a specific moment. The more detailed, the better. Then ask yourself, how were you standing? Were you upright, owning the room, or hunched in the corner? What tone of voice did you use? Firm and clear, or shakier than jelly? Where were you? At your desk, in the kitchen, in the middle of the street? Even silly details count. Were you holding your favorite coffee? Wearing your lucky jacket? It may sound funny, but your brain links those elements to confidence, and repeating them can trigger it faster than you think. Now replicate it, but on purpose. If that day you were standing tall with your shoulders back, do it today, even in front of your computer. If you used a firmer tone, try speaking like that even when ordering lunch. And no, you won't look strange. You'll look confident. It's like putting your body in hero mode so your mind follows. If you keep doing it, you'll notice something interesting. Your weak version starts running out of space to slip in. The key is not letting it close the chest again. That voice that says someday is the same one stealing from you today. And as long as you believe it, you'll keep burying what's already yours. Think of every challenge as a chance to pull out another tool, a tough phone call, a workout you don't feel like doing, an uncomfortable decision. All of it is digging, and every shovelful brings you closer to the strength that never left. So now tell me, are you going to keep acting like you're not strong enough, or are you going to open that chest and use what's already yours? Tell me in the comments. And if you know for sure that starting today you're going to live as your best self, write, "Today I open my chest and bury my weak self." Sixth lesson. Comfort is your worst enemy. Yes, comfort is your worst enemy. And that's exactly what happened to a bear in the northern mountains. They say that long ago, in a dense forest, there was a brown bear who had everything any other bear could dream of. He didn't need to hunt. He didn't need to put in any effort. Near his cave, a small village left food scraps every day: bread, meat, fruit, even honey. All he had to do was come down at dawn, and the feast was waiting. His life was easy. The other bears in the forest hunted, climbed trees, and traveled long distances to find food. Not him. He had everything served to him. Until one winter, disaster struck. A storm ravaged the village, and the people fled. The bear came down as usual, but for the first time in his life he found nothing. He waited, dug through the snow, searched the ruined houses. Nothing. Hunger hit him like never before, and for the first time in years he had to hunt to survive. But what happened? He couldn't. His paws were clumsy, his speed pathetic. He spotted a hare and ran after it, but was exhausted within seconds. He tried climbing a tree to find fruit, but his own weight held him back. The forest that once belonged to him now rejected him. He had spent so much time in comfort that he had forgotten how to be a bear. His body couldn't handle it, but worse than that, his instincts were gone. Comfort had weakened him without him even realizing it. Listen carefully, my friend, because this isn't just a fable. It's the trap we all fall into. Psychologist Walter Riso explains that our minds are stubborn and lazy by nature. They don't like change. They avoid it. They prefer what's familiar, predictable, effortless. Why? Because stepping out of your comfort zone creates discomfort, and your brain is wired to run from anything it perceives as a threat, even something as simple as waking up early. And here's the interesting part. Your brain reacts as if you were in real danger. Alert! Don't do it. It's uncomfortable. Go back. Your internal alarms start blaring. Beep, beep, beep. That's why you resist doing anything that takes you out of your comfort zone. It's like sitting on an old, worn-out couch. You know it's falling apart. You sink into it every time you sit down, and it's terrible for your back. But you keep using it, because it's easier than going to the store, picking out a new one, and dealing with the hassle of replacing it. The Stoics understood something most people avoid. Discomfort is not a punishment. It's a tool to make you stronger. That's why they didn't run from effort or always seek the easy way out. On the contrary, they tested themselves on purpose. Seneca, for example, would sleep on the floor from time to time, even though he lived a comfortable life, just to remind himself that he could endure any hardship. But don't worry, I'm not asking you to do the same. I'm asking you to make small changes that will take you where you truly want to be. Because the only way to defeat your weak version is to expose yourself to difficulty, to face the cold, the effort, the resistance. Only then, when the moment of truth comes, will you be ready. Imagine this. You get home after a long, exhausting day. You know you should cook something healthy, but just thinking about it makes you groan. Your brain, trained in comfort, seeks the easy way out. You order a pizza, pour yourself a glass of wine, and relax in front of the screen. Instant relief. But how many more times, how much longer will you keep choosing what makes you weaker? Do you want to break that cycle and make discomfort your best ally? Believe me, my friend, I know it's not easy. But it's the only way to unleash your full potential. First, change the question in your mind. Every time you're about to take the easy way out, don't ask yourself, "What do I feel like doing?" Instead, ask, "What would make me stronger?" If you're about to stay in bed instead of working out, if you're about to order takeout instead of cooking, if you're about to procrastinate on something important, stop and reframe the question. This tricks your brain and puts you in action mode instead of letting laziness take over. Second, challenge yourself with small acts of discomfort every day. You don't need to start with something extreme. Set simple but consistent challenges. For example, go for a walk in the rain instead of waiting for a sunny day. Or wash your face with cold water on a winter morning. Are these things small? Yes, but they train your mind to stop fearing discomfort and start seeing it as an ally. And now tell me, are you going to keep running from what makes you stronger? Or are you going to start rewriting your story today? Lesson 7. Stop throwing stones in your own path. Have you ever heard the story of Bartolo, the old farmer Esteban's donkey? They say that one day Bartolo fell into a deep well. The poor animal brayed with all his might, kicked, scratched at the walls in desperation. But they were too high to climb. From above, Esteban looked down sadly and thought, "He's old now, it's not worth the effort." So, resigned, he grabbed a shovel and started tossing dirt into the well. Each shovel full landed on Bartolo's back like it was the end. But the donkey did something surprising. Instead of giving up, he shook the dirt off and stepped on it. One load, one small step, another, one step higher, shake, step, rise. Until, against all odds, he used the very same dirt that was meant to bury him to climb out of the well. And that's the lesson. Sometimes life throws things at you that seem like your end, but if you use them right, they become your way out. As Seneca wrote, "Difficulty strengthens the mind as labor strengthens the body." But don't you think that most of the time we do the exact opposite? Instead of shaking the dirt off, we pile it on ourselves. And the worst part is you don't even need a real well to get stuck. All it takes is the story you keep repeating in your own head. That's something the Stoics never did. They understood that obstacles weren't burials, but training grounds. And it wasn't just words on a page. Think of Cato the Younger. He lived through a time of corruption, civil war, and constant pressure. Most people would have trembled in front of Caesar's power, found excuses just to survive. But Cato chose the opposite: indifference to fear, discipline in adversity. He didn't throw stones in his own path. He used them as proof that he could stand firm. And his integrity was so powerful that, even centuries later, he's still remembered as a living example of Stoicism in action. Now imagine this. You send a message to someone you like. You write it with excitement, you send it, and then the minutes start passing. 5, 10, 20. No reply, your mind starts to tremble. They're probably not interested. They must be with someone else. I'd better not insist. And the worst part? Before that person even has a chance to look at their phone, you've already buried yourself. You threw the dirt on yourself before anyone else could. And it doesn't stop there. That thought loops in your head like an echo you can't shut off. You check your phone every 2 minutes, reread the message 10 times looking for a mistake, start wondering if you should have written something else. Until eventually the silence turns into fear, and fear turns into paralysis. You don't reply to other messages. You can't focus on your tasks, you lose the whole day, trapped in a cycle you invented. That's the hardest wall to face, the one you build with your own hands. Because the truth is, maybe they were just busy. Maybe they were thinking about how to reply. Maybe they even smiled when they saw your message. But you turned a simple silence into an imaginary failure. That's what trembling does when you don't face it. It turns a small detail into a mountain. And if you want to stop trembling and start living like a Stoic, you need to look at those little discomforts differently. A silence, a wait, a bit of criticism. Those aren't signs of failure. They're training in disguise. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly. The obstacle is not the end, it's the way. And interestingly, centuries later, modern psychology came to the same conclusion with a different name: self-sabotage bias. It's that habit of your mind to assume the worst before you even risk hoping or trying again. But what would happen if you chose indifference to that silence? Try it. Next time you send a message and don't get an immediate reply, take a deep breath. Remind yourself that the response time doesn't define your worth. Use that moment to train your patience, to practice Stoic indifference. Because you are not defined by what you can't control, only by what you choose to do with your mind. And if you feel the trembling is still there, move. Do something physical. Stand up, walk around, do a few push-ups, drink a cold glass of water, anything to bring yourself back to your body. That physical reset breaks the mental loop and brings you back to the one thing you do control: your action. That's the difference, because the more you practice this, the more indifferent you become to silence, to fear, to anything trying to shake you from within. Lesson 8. Comfort trains you to lose. In a small town, there was a violinist known for his flawless precision. Every day he played in the central square, but always under the same stone roof that shielded him from wind, rain, and sun. There, everything sounded perfect. One day, a famous orchestra conductor heard him and offered him the chance to perform at a big outdoor event. The violinist accepted, certain it would be his moment of glory. But the moment he started, the wind blew his sheet music. The cold numbed his fingers and the noise of the crowd broke his focus. He wasn't ready. He had never trained in real conditions. That day, he didn't fail for lack of talent. He failed because comfort had made him fragile. And that's exactly what happens to you, even if you don't play the violin. You spend months studying a language from your couch, coffee in hand, phone by your side. Everything flows. The phrases come easily. You even think you're fluent. But then comes the real test. A native speaker asks you something on the street. Your mind goes blank. It's not that you don't know. It's that you never trained in real discomfort. You never tested your skills outside your safe environment. Comfort doesn't warn you when it starts to weaken you. It strokes you, wraps around you, and without you realizing, makes you dependent on it. Seneca said it plainly. To live always in comfort and without hardship is to ignore half of nature. He knew that those who grow too used to the easy path break when faced with the hard one. That's why he practiced voluntary discomfort, sleeping on a hard bed, wearing simple clothes, eating just enough. Not because he had no other choice, but so that his body and mind would never forget how to respond when life turned uphill. Picture Seneca in our time. On a day of heavy rain, everyone runs for shelter with umbrellas and hoods. He, on the other hand, would walk calmly through the downpour, letting the cold and discomfort remind him he can withstand it. And while people look at him like he's crazy, he'd grow a little stronger with every step. It's no coincidence that centuries later, experts in human behavior reach the same conclusion. Jordan Harbinger, interviewer and podcast host, talks about how prolonged comfort reduces your ability to adapt. According to him, every day you avoid discomfort, your tolerance for stress and uncertainty shrinks. The solution isn't to live in constant hardship, but to introduce small challenges that force you out of everything under control mode. Here's where you can start today. Don't wait for a crisis to train yourself. Change something small. Take the stairs instead of the elevator, even if you're carrying bags. Do an important task without waiting for the perfect moment or the ideal environment. Even something as simple as working in a noisier place than usual will train your focus to not depend on perfect conditions. And next time something makes you uncomfortable, instead of avoiding it, lean into it. If the water's cold, get in anyway. If it's raining, walk without hurrying. If someone asks you a tough question, breathe and answer even if your voice shakes. It's not just about getting through the moment. It's about proving to yourself you can keep going even without the cozy blanket you always wrap yourself in. Because comfort is treacherous. It's like a thick winter blanket. At first it comforts you, makes you feel safe. But if you never step out from under it, your muscles grow weak, your skin gets used to the warmth, and you forget how to face the cold. And whoever forgets that strengthens their weak version. My friend, if you want to live as your best self, you have to kill that part of you that only looks for the perfect temperature, the softest chair, and the path without stones. Don't wait until life drags you onto the outdoor stage and the wind leaves you unable to play. Train today in the small things, so that tomorrow nothing can throw you off balance. Strength isn't built in comfort. It's built in every moment you choose to step into discomfort on purpose. And every time you do, that weak self shrinks a little more until it's no longer in charge. Ninth lesson: leave no room for weakness. Have you ever tried lighting a campfire with a single match? The flame ignites quickly, seems strong, but in seconds, it dies out. That's motivation. Discipline, on the other hand, is like a steady fire that keeps burning even when the wind howls. If you rely on the match, you'll be left in the dark. But if you build a solid fire, no matter what happens, the flame will stay alive. Want proof? Let's look at Kobe Bryant. He woke up at 4 in the morning to train. Do you think it was because he wanted to get up? Because he was always super motivated? That he didn't enjoy the warmth of his bed in the morning? No, it wasn't any of that. He didn't rely on feelings, motivation, or whether it was cold or hot outside. While most of his teammates were still sleeping, he had already spent hours on the court, perfecting his craft. He didn't wait to feel like it. He didn't ask himself if he was in the mood to train. He did it because it had to be done. And that was his secret. He left no room for weakness. Many people think he was lucky or just naturally gifted, but luck doesn't exist. As Seneca said, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. What you didn't see was the silent work, the early mornings, the sacrifices. Now put yourself in this situation. You've been saying for months, maybe even years, that you want to start a business. You keep repeating it in your head, even telling your friends about it. But every day you're still in the same place. One day you get home from work and think about finally sitting down to do it. But you're tired. You tell yourself, after such a long day, I deserve to rest. So you sink into the couch, put on a show, and think, tomorrow for sure, no excuses. But when tomorrow comes, the problem isn't exhaustion, it's insecurity. I don't know enough yet. Maybe I should keep researching. So you spend hours watching business videos, reading advice, looking for inspiration, but doing absolutely nothing. The weekend arrives, and you think about dedicating some time to it. But there's always something easier to do. A hangout with friends, an afternoon of rest, a new excuse that sounds reasonable. Because starting something takes effort, and deep down, you're still waiting for the perfect moment, as if one day you'll wake up feeling ready. But here's the truth. Every time you choose the easy way out, you hand over control to your weak version, the one that postpones, the one that doubts, the one that waits to feel ready. And just like that, another year goes by, and your business is still just an idea in your head because you keep leaving room for weakness. Now, how can you apply this in your life and kill your weak version? First, set a non-negotiable time commitment. If you want your business to take off, you must schedule a fixed time for it, like a real job. 1 hour a day, every day, no excuses. It doesn't matter if you're tired, if you had a bad day, or if you don't feel like it. You do it because it's part of the process. Second, set a non-negotiable focus commitment. If every time you sit down to work, you get distracted by social media, your phone, or any random nonsense, you'll never move forward. Put your phone in another room, use a focus technique like the Pomodoro method. Block distractions. Your business won't build itself. Third, set a non-negotiable action commitment. No more perfectionism, no more waiting for the right time. Every day, you must take at least one concrete step toward your goal. It could be reaching out to a client, creating content, improving a product, anything tangible. If there's no action, there's no progress. This is what separates those who get results from those who don't. Discipline is not negotiable. It's not something you do when you feel like it. It's something you do because it's part of who you are. Lesson 10. The world owes you nothing. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like life owed you more than you have? Have you thought your boss should finally recognize everything you do? That your friends should return the same loyalty you give them? That effort should automatically lead to reward? If you've ever been in one of those situations, you're not alone. We've all felt at some point like the world owes us something. But the Stoics were clear on this. Life doesn't sign contracts with you, and the sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll stop trembling. They understood that expecting anything from outside yourself is giving power to what you don't control. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that each day arrives full of events outside your reach. Expecting everything and everyone to fit your expectations is a sure recipe for frustration. The world doesn't work that way. And when you forget this, it's you who starts to bury yourself under the weight of disappointment. Picture this. You've been working hard at your job for months, staying late, taking on tasks that aren't yours, solving problems without being asked. Every day you tell yourself, it's worth it. My promotion is coming. You've even imagined the congratulatory email, the moment you tell your family, the feeling of finally being recognized. And then one day the news comes. There is a promotion, but it's not for you. It's for someone who's been there less time, someone who, in your opinion, does far less. People in the office smile, congratulate the other person, and your chest tightens. That voice in your head starts shouting, "This isn't fair. I deserved it. They owe me." Your mind trembles, your calm vanishes, and without realizing it, you turn that moment into a wound that won't close. That's the problem. Thinking life runs on a system of automatic rewards. You work hard, so you expect a prize. You help, so you expect gratitude. You make an effort, so you expect instant results. But the truth is different. Life is like a vast ocean. You can float there, waiting for a boat to rescue you, and curse the horizon while nothing appears. Or you can start swimming. At first, you tremble. Your arms ache. The waves push you back. But every stroke, even the small ones, brings you closer to shore. Those who wait stay adrift. Those who row, even trembling, eventually arrive. Epictetus put it simply, don't hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen. This is the path to peace. In other words, don't expect life to meet your plans. Learn to align your mind with reality as it unfolds. That's Stoic indifference. Stop trembling when things don't go your way, because your worth isn't tied to outcomes. It's tied to your actions. But how do you actually apply this? Because this isn't about empty words or nice quotes. Here are 3 very clear steps. First, catch your mind when it falls into the "they owe me" trap. Every time you hear yourself thinking, "I deserve that promotion," or "they should have thanked me," pause. Take a breath and write down what's actually in your control. You may not get to choose who gets promoted, but you can choose how to keep growing, how to improve, and how to act with excellence even when no one applauds you. Second, break the mental loop with physical action. When you feel stuck thinking life is unfair, get up, walk, go outside, do a few push-ups, drink a cold glass of water. That movement reminds you that your body and your will are under your command, not your expectations. It's a simple gesture, but every time you do it, you're training your indifference to the trembling caused by frustration. Third, always ask yourself this: would I still do this even if I got nothing in return? If your answer is yes, then you're acting like a Stoic. Because real value doesn't lie in what you receive, it lies in who you become when you act with virtue. Musonius Rufus emphasized this. The reward is not out there. It's in the action itself. You don't help others so they'll owe you. You help because it's the right thing to do. You don't work hard just for a promotion. You work hard because it strengthens your character. And now I want you to reflect. What would your life look like if you stopped expecting things in return? What would happen if you let go of the role of victim when things don't show up, and started enjoying the simple act of taking one step after another, focused on what depends on you? For the Stoics, that was the path to freedom. They didn't wait for gratitude. They didn't wait for fairness. They didn't expect the universe to reward them. They simply acted with virtue and let everything else unfold as it would. That's what made them unshakable. Lesson 11. Protect your energy like a treasure. Picture this. You wake up motivated. You think, today's the day, this is going to be the most productive Monday of the year. You have breakfast, get dressed, and head out with a disciplined mindset. But by mid-morning, someone adds you to a WhatsApp group arguing about the best place to eat paella, and you spend half an hour reading and replying. Later at the office, you get caught in a useless debate about whether the coffee machine should be upstairs or downstairs. Then, during your break, you open social media just for 5 minutes, and before you know it, you've watched cat videos, political arguments, and a tutorial for baking bread you'll never make. By the time it's finally time to focus, your energy is gone, like you've drained your entire battery on things that didn't matter at all. This isn't by accident. Energy doesn't vanish all at once. It leaks out in small drips throughout the day. And the worst part is, most of the time, you're the one opening the tap. It's like carrying a backpack full of supplies to cross a desert and deciding to hand them out to anyone who asks, even strangers. By the time you actually need them for what matters most, you're empty. Look at Novak Djokovic, the world's #1 in tennis. He's a perfect example of this. His success doesn't just come from perfecting shots and building physical endurance. He openly talks about how he protects his mental energy before a tournament. He avoids people and conversations that drain his focus. He refuses to get pulled into debates or distractions that could sap him, because he knows every thought and every emotion count. He steps onto the court with a clean mind, no leaks, ready to put everything he has into what truly matters. In fact, if you think about it, Djokovic could pass for a Stoic without a problem. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You lose what you keep for others." He wasn't just talking about material possessions. He meant your attention, your time, your mental strength. Every time you spend your energy on something that doesn't add value, you're giving away a part of yourself you'll never get back. A Stoic doesn't allow himself to waste fuel on things that don't move him toward his goal. He chooses who and what he invests his attention in, like someone guarding a one-of-a-kind jewel. So how can you apply this yourself? Step 1. Make an honest list of your daily energy leaks. You might discover you waste half an hour on social media before bed. You linger in conversations with that person who always complains and leaves you in a bad mood. Or you join debates that change nothing. Write it all down, no filters. Step 2. Set clear boundaries. Here's where something Cal Newport, creator of the deep work concept, comes in. He recommends structuring your day into blocks of work and rest, removing distractions entirely while you're in each block. For example, if you only check your phone at certain times, you avoid fragmenting your attention. If you decide not to answer messages outside certain hours, you cut off interruptions that drain you. Yes, it's hard at first, but it's like training a muscle. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Step 3. Schedule your energy like you would meetings with your best client. If you know there's a time of day when you perform best, guard it like gold. Don't trade it for just a quick thing or a favor you could do another day. If that's your time to train, write, or work on your project, make it untouchable. In the end, it's easier to defend a space that's already booked than to create one when you're already drained. Think of your energy like the battery of an old phone. It didn't charge in 15 minutes like now. You had to take care of it so it lasted all day. And if you ran out of battery in the middle of the street, you were stuck. It's the same with your energy. Spend it without thinking, and by the time you need it for the important stuff, it's gone. So tell me, what do you do to protect your energy? Share it in the comments, so together we can create a whole arsenal of strategies for our community to finish the day with the strength to focus on what truly matters. And if you don't have a technique yet, write, "I protect my energy like a treasure," because that, believe me, is the first step to finally burying the part of you that settles for living tired and too drained to go after what it really wants. Lesson 12. Stop wasting time. If today were your last day in this world, what would you do differently? Would you still be glued to your phone, watching other people's lives? Would you waste time on pointless arguments? Would you keep telling yourself that tomorrow is the day you'll finally start that project, work out, or change your life? Spoiler, no. Yet here you are, letting the days slip away as if they were infinite, as if there will always be a tomorrow to do what truly matters, as if time were a bank account that never runs out. Imagine an hourglass. Each grain of sand represents a day of your life. You don't know how many are left at the top. Maybe a lot, or maybe just a few. But one thing is certain, once they fall, there's no way to get them back. Now tell me, how many grains have you already wasted on things that don't lead you anywhere? On how many likes your photo got, on what your neighbor is doing, or whether those two people from the party are still together or broke up? Steve Jobs understood that time was the one thing he couldn't buy. Every morning he looked in the mirror and asked himself, if today were the last day of my life, would I do what I'm about to do? If the answer was no too many days in a row, he knew something had to change. And he changed it. He didn't wait, he didn't postpone, he didn't make excuses about why it wasn't the right time yet. He simply acted. Marcus Aurelius also understood that the key was to accept death, not as something negative, but as a compass forcing you to focus on what truly matters. His words say it all. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say. An emperor, the most powerful man of his time, reminding himself that his time was limited. Because it was, and because ours is too. Now think about yourself. You keep acting like you're going to live forever. You let the days pass as if you were guaranteed decades more. But tell me, how many of those days have truly been yours? How many have you spent doing what you really wanted, living how you really wanted? And how many have you given away to routine, to procrastination, to distractions? We fool ourselves into thinking we're busy, that we don't have time, that we can't do more. But in reality, it's a choice. Because listen to this, time isn't spent, it's invested. And if you feel like you're wasting it, here's a simple technique from the book. Help. What would you do if today were your last day? Each night before bed, ask yourself, did I use my time today for something that truly mattered? If the answer is no, change something tomorrow, even if it's small. You don't need to flip your entire life upside down overnight. Just take one step in the right direction. But here's the most important part. Don't postpone. Don't say, I'll do it tomorrow. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. The difference between those who accomplish something and those who don't isn't talent. It isn't luck. It's that the ones who succeed choose to act before they feel ready. They don't let life drag them along on autopilot. They ask themselves whether they're truly living or just existing, and they take action before it's too late. Remember this, the time you waste today is life you will never get back. If you don't realize that now, one day you might look back and ask yourself, what the hell did I spend my life on? Don't let it be too late. Make every grain of sand count. My friend, they say that the real battle isn't won in a single fight, but in consistency. That it doesn't matter how many times you defeat an enemy if you let them rise again the next day. And here we are, at the final step, the last test to kill once and for all the weak version of yourself that has tried to hold you back for so long. Are you ready to find out? Lesson 13. Your mind can be your refuge or your prison. Picture the scene, you're at your best friend's wedding. Everyone is smiling, the mood is festive, glasses clink, and suddenly someone says, "Come on, go up and say a few words." In that moment, the background music vanishes. The crowd's chatter turns into an unbearable hum, and your heart starts pounding like it's trying to break out of your chest. You look at the microphone and it feels like a sentence. Everyone's going to judge you. Laugh if you stammer. Remember forever the moment you embarrassed yourself. And of course, your body reacts. Your voice cracks, your hands shake, your legs feel like paper. The fear wasn't in the crowd, it was in your mind. Now imagine the same scene, but with one difference. Right before speaking, you remember a quote from Marcus Aurelius. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Instead of listening to the voice of fear, you choose a different interpretation. The audience is no longer a jury. They're a group of people ready to celebrate. The microphone isn't an enemy, it's just a channel for your words. And your mind, instead of projecting disaster, shows you the calm of someone speaking with ease. That one thought changes everything. not because the people changed, but because your perception did. And suddenly, you speak with clarity, without trembling, like you've always belonged in that moment. That's where the trap lies. We don't tremble because things are impossible. We tremble because our mind writes a script of failure before anything even happens. And the more you repeat that script, the more you believe it, until you start acting as if it's true. That's the invisible prison that keeps us from growing. Thoughts that invent barriers. But if the mind can be programmed to limit you, it can also be trained to set you free. Take the example of Cicero during his exile. He was a powerful man, respected in Rome, until one day he was cast out. He could have drowned in shame, fed thoughts of defeat, and lived as a broken man. But he chose a different interpretation. He used that time to write, to reflect, to strengthen his influence even from afar. He rewrote the script in his mind, and that script changed his fate. If he could do that in a time when losing everything was almost like losing your life, what excuse do we have when our hands shake just before sending an email or speaking up? That's where training comes in. Just like an athlete practices each move until the body does it instinctively, you can train your mind to stop trembling. It's not about pretending there's no fear. It's about teaching your mind a different script. And believe me, it works. The next time your mind shows you the worst-case scenario, flip the film. If you imagine people laughing at you, change the scene. Picture those same people listening closely, nodding, clapping. Make it so vivid that it feels real. With repetition, your brain will record it. And when the moment comes, it will use that version as its reference. But don't stop at visualization. Every scene you rehearse in your head needs a real step to go with it. If you visualize speaking calmly, dare to share an idea in a small meeting. If you imagine running with confidence, go train even if it's just for a few minutes. Each action is proof that tells your mind the script of confidence is possible. Slowly, the trembling loses power, because it no longer has evidence to stand on. Training indifference helps too. Don't fight every fear-based thought. Don't try to erase them by force. Watch them like you'd watch an annoying ad on TV. It's there, you hear it, but you don't give it your attention. You keep doing your thing. That's Stoic indifference. Accepting that thoughts will show up, but refusing to treat them like commands. In the end, the difference between freezing at a wedding or speaking with calm doesn't lie in your talent or your voice. It lies in your mind. That's where you decide whether your thoughts will trap you or set you free. My friend, you are not a slave to what your mind repeats. You're the one in charge of that voice. If you can invent fear, you can also invent strength. If you can train the trembling, you can train the calm. That's real reprogramming. Choosing every day which script deserves space in your mind and which one you're ready to let go. Stop trembling. Start telling yourself the story of someone who acts with clarity and strength. Repeat that story until it becomes your truth. And when the time comes to speak, to choose, to act, you won't be a prisoner of your thoughts, but the architect of your life. So tell me, are you going to let your mind stay a prison, or will you turn it into your refuge? If you're ready, write in the comments, "Today my mind is my refuge." That way, everyone in the community will see that you're not alone on this journey. Lesson 14. Kill the imposter living inside you. My friend, in your own house lives someone who looks like you, dresses like you, talks like you, but isn't you. It's like a double who slipped in without asking permission. You hear them moving through the halls, using your favorite mug, leaving their clothes on your chair. And every time you're about to take an important step, you find them sitting there, smiling with that fake sense of reassurance, as if to say, "Relax, I'll handle it." The problem is, when they act in your place, they always do it halfway. They speak softly, doubt every word, and leave things unfinished. That someone isn't you. It's the imposter you've let settle in without realizing it. They don't sign contracts, don't take risks, don't dream too big. They only make sure you never step outside your comfort zone. And the worst part? They don't even pay rent. They take up your space, drain your energy, and dim your potential like a light bulb left on all day until it burns out. You let them stay because it's comfortable, because that way you don't risk failing. But meanwhile, they keep occupying the place that belongs to your best self. I'm sure you've felt it more than once. Maybe it happened in a meeting. You have a brilliant idea that could change everything. You've rehearsed it in your head, even in front of the mirror. And when it's finally your turn, the imposter takes over. Well, maybe this won't work, but... And just like that, the idea comes out mutilated before it's even born. The same thing happens when you look in the mirror before an important event, or when someone congratulates you on an achievement and you answer with, "It's nothing." This imposter steals your confidence drop by drop, and the worst part is, they do it using your own voice. This isn't new. Epictetus put it with a clarity that still cuts like a knife today. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish. Wish for everything to happen as it does, and your life will flow. When you depend on external approval to move forward, you're already acting as your weakest self. A Stoic doesn't wait for the perfect signal or anyone's validation. They start moving as their best self from the very first step. Psychologist Valerie Young, author of The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women, has studied this deeply. Imposter syndrome makes you feel that everything you achieve is luck or coincidence. That any moment now, someone will find out you're not really that good. And no, it's not something that only happens to beginners. Even people at the top of their field feel it. Don't think it only happens to regular people. Even those we admire have faced it. Take Viola Davis, for example, one of the most respected and awarded actresses of her generation. Oscar, Emmy, Tony, and yet she admitted that for years she walked onto sets afraid someone would realize she didn't deserve to be there. How did she overcome it? By adopting the mindset of, "I already belong here," before anyone else told her so. She didn't wait for the world to give her permission. She took it. If you're ready to kill that version of yourself, start by introducing yourself and speaking like someone who's already capable, even if you don't believe it 100% yet. Words shape identity. If every time you talk about what you do, you downplay it, you're training your mind to believe it's small. Second, create a file, a note, or even a physical folder with all your achievements, big or small. That client who thanked you, that goal you hit, that challenge you overcame when you thought you couldn't. Read it when the imposter shows up, because sometimes you have to remind your own brain of what you can do. Third, change your inner dialogue. Instead of "I don't know if I can," say "I'll find the way." It's not self-deception, it's reprogramming. My friend, every time you let the imposter decide for you, you're keeping alive the part of you that holds you back, the one that always finds a reason not to take the leap, the one that keeps you standing on the shore staring at the water instead of swimming where you want to go. And if you don't face it, it grows stronger. That's why today it's not about negotiating with it. It's about throwing it out once and for all. The imposter doesn't pay rent, feeds off your insecurities, and in return gives you nothing. They steal the place that's yours and don't even flinch. It's time to change the locks. Because the day you take control and tell them there's only room here for your strongest self, you'll start living with the freedom of someone who shows up in the world exactly as they are. And that, believe me, is the sign you've finally started living as your best self. Lesson 15. Don't think, just do it. You'll probably relate to this. You want to do something, but instead of doing it, you start overthinking. Well, I'll do it later, but first, let me check my email. Maybe tomorrow would be a better day to start. I'm going to get everything organized first, make a detailed plan, and then I'll really do it. And just like that, you're stuck, trapped in the overthinking loop, like a hamster running on a wheel, going in circles but never moving forward. You analyze every possibility, convince yourself that you'll do it soon, but time keeps passing, and you're still in the same place. Do you know the difference between those who achieve things and those who don't? No, it's not talent. It's not luck. It's not intelligence either. The difference is that some people take action, while others just keep thinking about it. So now, Tell me, my friend, which team are you on? If you tend to procrastinate, let me tell you something. This isn't just about willpower. There's actual science behind it. The longer you think about doing something, the harder it becomes to start. It's as if your brain builds a wall that gets higher and higher. A study published in the Journal of Psychology and Education found that procrastination is closely linked to anxiety and stress. The more you postpone something, the more anxious you feel, and that anxiety makes you delay it even further. It's a vicious cycle. That's exactly what happens to someone in my family. Every time you ask him for a favor or remind him of something he needs to do, he always says, "I'll do it in 5 minutes one of these days." Then he starts explaining his whole plan, how he'll do it, the steps he'll follow. He spends days, sometimes weeks, just thinking about it, but he never does it. The task becomes heavier and harder in his mind, and in the end, when he finally decides to do it, he realizes that, surprise, it really did only take 5 minutes. See the problem? He spent more time thinking about doing it than actually doing it. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, put it simply, "Do what nature requires of you. Don't get distracted by anything else." Our nature is to act, not to get trapped in an endless loop of thoughts and excuses. So how do you break this cycle? Here's a practical tip. Use the 3-second rule. When you hesitate to do something, count to 3 and take action before your brain comes up with an excuse. 1, 2, 3, go. No time to overthink, no space for doubt. Believe me, procrastination is the silent killer of your dreams. Every time you delay something, you're feeding your weak version, the part of you that seeks comfort, fears failure, and prefers the easy way out. But that's not who you are. Inside you, there's a strong version. Decisive, action-oriented, unstoppable. Don't think, just do it. Your future self will thank you. Lesson 16. Greatness is paid for in sweat. Night falls in Athens. While the city sleeps, a man stumbles forward, shoulders hunched under the weight of 2 heavy jugs of water. Sweat soaks his tunic, the ropes burn his hands, and every step feels like the last. He's not a slave or a day laborer. He's Cleanthes, a disciple of Zeno. And he's not hauling water to get rich. He's doing it for something few would understand, to be able to study philosophy during the day. The neighbors laughed at him. They said, "What's the point of working yourself to death just to sit around listening to wise words? That won't put food on your table." But Cleanthes knew something they didn't. Greatness is paid for in sweat, discomfort, and endless nights. He knew that if he wanted to forge his mind into steel, he first had to harden his body through difficulty. Now I ask you, what about you? Are you willing to pay the price for what you dream of? Because everyone says they want success, freedom, strength, but few are ready to handle what that actually costs. And when discomfort shows up, when sacrifice knocks on the door, they start to tremble. The Stoics understood that nothing great comes without effort. Marcus Aurelius wrote that each day would come full of obstacles, and that you shouldn't curse them, but use them. What stands in the way becomes the way, he said. That's the key. What you call difficulty today is actually the step that helps you rise. But of course, it hurts. And if you don't accept that pain as part of the process, every stumble becomes a wall that paralyzes you. Let me give you a very simple example. Imagine you buy a guitar. You get home excited, pull it out of the case, and already picture yourself playing like a rock star. You stand in front of the mirror, strum the strings, and it sounds awful, like you're fighting a furious cat. You try a basic chord, but your fingers can't quite reach. The string digs into your fingertip, and it starts to sting. By day 2, your hands are red. By day 3, you're already making excuses not to play. Until one day, tired of sounding terrible, you put the guitar away and tell yourself, "It's just not for me." But let's be honest, it wasn't lack of talent, it was lack of patience to pay the price. Because the one who pushes through those early days, when it all sounds bad, when the fingers hurt, when nothing comes out right, eventually discovers that the music starts to flow. And that's when you realize that every clumsy moment was a necessary step. Every mistake not only tuned the guitar, it shaped your character. Eric Thomas, one of the most listened to motivational speakers in the world, tells a story about a mentor who took a young man to the sea. He pushed his head underwater and held it there until he was about to drown. Then he pulled him up and said, "When you want to succeed as badly as you want to breathe, then you'll succeed." The lesson is simple and direct. Everyone says they want something great, but very few are willing to pay the real price. The Stoics knew it. Life gives you nothing for free. Everything is earned through repetition, failure, and trying again. Seneca said it plainly. Difficulty strengthens the mind just as labor does the body. And that's the indifference they practiced, not running from effort, not trembling in the face of discomfort, but embracing it as part of the path. If you want to apply this, you don't need 10,000 hours overnight or a perfect plan. What you need is to accept 3 simple truths. First, results won't show up right away. There'll be a long stretch of time where all you see is sweat and exhaustion, and no one clapping for you. Second, sacrifice is not punishment. It's the filter that separates those who say they want it from those who actually get it. Third, every discomfort you push through today is what will make you indifferent tomorrow to pain, failure, or criticism. And here's what matters most. There is no perfect moment. You'll never feel 100% ready. The one who waits to be prepared never starts. The one who starts, even while trembling, prepares along the way. That was the secret of Cleanthes, of Marcus Aurelius, of everyone who left their mark. They knew greatness doesn't come to those who seek comfort, but to those who accept the price without complaining. My friend, stop dreaming of easy success. It doesn't exist. The price is always there, and the question isn't whether it exists. The question is whether you'll pay it. Stoic indifference begins when you choose to work in silence, when you stop trembling in the face of sacrifice and realize that what others call pain, to you, is training. Because in the end, people will say you got lucky, that you were talented, that fate smiled on you, but you'll know the truth, that you paid for it with sweat, sleepless nights, and steady steps when no one was watching. 17th lesson. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Yes, you heard that right. It's not a mistake, it's reality. If nothing changes, nothing changes. If you say you want to begin, then begin. Let me tell you something close to home. My neighbor always talked about wanting to open a flower shop. His eyes would light up every time he mentioned it. He'd describe how he'd set up the storefront, which flowers he'd stock each season. He even imagined customers coming in and out with colorful bouquets. The idea was clear and the passion was real. But there was one step he just couldn't take. He had to complete a mandatory course in order to open the business. That's when the excuses started. I don't like studying. I don't have time. That course is useless anyway, just red tape. He'd complain every time it came up. It seemed like the course was the barrier, but really, the course was just a smokescreen. What was truly stopping him was fear. He was afraid to take the step, afraid to find out it wouldn't be easy, afraid to take a risk and fail. That fear made him tremble inside, and because he didn't know how to stay indifferent to that trembling, he froze. The months passed and he kept repeating the same story. I want to open the flower shop, but that course, and of course, the shop never came. Do you see it now? Most of the time, it's not the challenge itself that stops us. It's the story we tell ourselves to avoid facing our fear. My neighbor's problem wasn't a course that lasted a few hours. It was that he kept doing the same thing, complaining, imagining, and not taking action. And as the saying goes, if you keep doing the same thing, you'll keep being the same person. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be prepared to look like a fool and an ignoramus." And he was right. My neighbor didn't want to feel clumsy in class. He didn't want to be seen as a beginner. He preferred the comfort of dreaming about the flower shop over the discomfort of starting from scratch. But you can't grow that way. Marcus Aurelius understood it too. For him, every day was an opportunity to act, not to get trapped in thought. If something blocked his path, he made it part of the process. If the course had been in his way, a Stoic would have seen it as the first step toward the goal, not as a wall. But that requires indifference. To stop trembling at discomfort and just do the thing. And now, I want you to apply this to your own life. Because I'm sure you have your own flower shop. Maybe it's a project you've been putting off for years. Maybe it's a change you keep promising to make when you have more time. Maybe it's a habit you say you'll start tomorrow. And if you look closely, you'll see that the barrier you talk about isn't the real problem. It's not the course. It's not the time. It's not the money. It's fear. The fear that makes you tremble right before you act. So how do you break that? Think about yourself. Maybe you've been saying for weeks that you're going to start training. You've even saved workouts on your phone, bought the gear. But every morning when the alarm goes off, you hit snooze and say, "I'll start tomorrow." Sound familiar? That tomorrow is your version of the course. It's not that you can't train. It's that the fear of discomfort makes you tremble and look for excuses. What can you do in that moment? Don't wait for motivation. Do something small, but do something. Put on your shoes and go walk for 5 minutes. That one action cuts through the chain of excuses, and no matter how small, turns you into someone who takes action. That's what my neighbor was missing. Indifference to the trembling and a real step forward. My friend, let me tell you something. Few things bring as much pride as looking back and realizing you had the courage to turn a corner, even when everyone told you to keep going straight. If you succeed, you'll grow, and if you fail, you haven't failed. You've just found a path that brings you closer to where you want to be. So the question is simple. Are you going to keep living like my neighbor? Or will you dare to take the step, even if your voice shakes, even if your hands hurt, even if people judge you? Do it today. Change something today. Because if you keep doing the same, you'll keep being the same. And I know you want more than that. Remember, results don't appear overnight. The key is to keep moving, even slowly, but every day, in the direction of what you want. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll never begin. The perfect moment doesn't exist. You build it by acting. My friend, everything you've heard in this video will mean nothing if you don't add this last piece. Because yes, you can train, you can push through, you can give it your all. But if you don't make this shift in how you think, you'll keep trembling inside. And trust me, what comes next is exactly the piece you've been missing. Lesson number 18. Let go of the weight that holds you down. There are hot air balloons that could cross entire mountain ranges, but they never take off because they're still tied to the ground. The fire is lit, the hot air ready to lift them, the wind blowing in their favor. And yet they don't move. Why? Because the ropes are still holding on to sandbags that are too heavy. And here's the uncomfortable truth. We all have those sandbags in our lives. They're not always material things. Sometimes they're people, habits, or beliefs we carry around that, even if we tell ourselves they don't weigh that much, are actually keeping us from flying. Think about your week. You start Monday determined to move forward with fresh ideas and motivation. But little by little, without noticing, you start spending energy on conversations that lead nowhere. You reply to messages from people who only complain, accept invitations you don't want, and say yes to tasks that add nothing to your goals. By Friday, the tank is empty. And the worst part, your real project, the one that truly matters to you, is still waiting. Sound familiar? Bodybuilder Ernestine Shepherd experienced this firsthand. At over 70 years old, she kept hearing the same phrase, "You're too old to try." That voice, repeated by friends and even family, was a sandbag keeping her balloon tied down. One day she decided she couldn't keep listening to that if she wanted to fly. She distanced herself from those influences, started training, taking care of herself. And years later, at 74, she entered the Guinness World Records as the world's oldest competitive female bodybuilder. What changed her life wasn't just exercise, it was letting go of the emotional weight holding her back. Marcus Aurelius had a clear method for avoiding the pull of what drained him. In a palace where everyone wanted something from him, he filtered ruthlessly what added no value. He didn't spend hours arguing with people whose goal was to impose their ego. He didn't attend every banquet just to please others, and he didn't carry other people's guilt. It was as if he inspected the hive every day, removing anything that could sicken it before it spread. That's why he wrote, "What's not good for the hive is not good for the bee." He understood that caring for the whole started with caring for himself and his mental space. This is where you need to get serious with yourself and act as Marcus Aurelius would. Start by spotting those energy leaks, one by one. Make a list, even if it's uncomfortable to see it in writing. Maybe it's that friend who always calls just to complain, that activity you do purely out of habit, or that routine that leaves you drained and unmotivated. Next, reduce their presence gradually but firmly. No, you don't have to cut everything overnight, but you do need to set clear boundaries. It could be spending less time with someone who always drags you into negativity, or saying, "I can't today," when you know that plan adds nothing to your life. Even something as simple as muting a chat that steals hours from you can make a difference. Finally, fill the space you've cleared with fuel for your best self. Surround yourself with people who push you to improve. Dedicate time to activities that move you closer to your goals, and build habits that strengthen your body and mind. Just like a hot air balloon needs less weight and more hot air to rise, you need to drop dead weight and feed what lifts you higher. Think of it this way: if your balloon is tied with 10 ropes and you cut only one, it'll move a little but still stay on the ground. If you cut them all, even a light wind will lift it. No, it's not about living in isolation. It's about being selective with what you allow around you. Because as the saying goes, what you tolerate, you feed. Killing the part of you that holds you back isn't a one-day dramatic act. It's a series of conscious decisions where you choose to release, let go, and prioritize what takes you higher. Sometimes the hardest part isn't lighting the fire. It's having the courage to cut the ropes. Lesson 19. Stay away from those who hold you back. Imagine you are a rocket about to launch. You have all the potential to reach unimaginable heights. But there's a problem. Something is holding you down. It's not technical failures or lack of fuel. It's the ropes tying you to the ground. Now think about your life. Those ropes are the people around you. Some push you forward, motivate you, lift you up. But others keep you stuck. Every negative comment, every disguised insult, every so-called joke that belittles your efforts is another rope holding you back. And if you don't cut them, you will never take off. Marcus Aurelius understood this well. Avoid those who pollute your soul. For him, the environment was crucial. He knew the people around you can either elevate you or destroy you, and he experienced it firsthand. As Emperor of Rome, he was surrounded by flatterers, schemers, and opportunists. He knew many were only close to him out of self-interest, telling him what he wanted to hear instead of the truth. But instead of surrounding himself with false allies, he chose to be around philosophers, strategists, and people who challenged his thinking. And tell me, how many times has this happened to you? You start improving and suddenly, your environment starts making you feel bad about it. You try to adopt a healthier lifestyle and they say, "Don't overdo it, enjoy life." You start working toward your goals and they say, "You've become boring, you never go out anymore." You decide to focus on personal growth and they say, "Why try so hard?" Nothing really changes in the end. It's no coincidence. People who feel uncomfortable with your growth will try to pull you back down to their level. And here's where neuroscience comes in. Dr. Tara Swart explains that the environment we choose doesn't just influence our lives, it defines us. According to her, if you want to understand who you are at this moment, you should analyze the 5 people you spend the most time with. So what do you think? Shall we try it? Think of the 5 people you spend the most time with. They could be friends, family, co-workers, or your partner. The ones you talk to the most, the ones who fill your days. Now, next to each name, write 3 words that describe them. Don't rush. Be honest. Is that person disciplined or a procrastinator? Are they positive or do they complain about everything? Are they ambitious or do they settle for the bare minimum? Do they push you to improve or always find a reason for you not to? Now consider this. If one of these people is constantly complaining about work, life, or lack of opportunities, how much of that mindset have you absorbed without realizing it? If another person is someone who never finishes what they start, who talks a lot but does little, how much has that influenced you to justify your own lack of action? Now go back and read those adjectives again. And here's something you might not like to hear. This list is showing you a part of yourself. Because, my friend, we don't just choose our environment shapes us. If you want to stop being weak, surround yourself with people who make you stronger, people who celebrate your growth instead of holding you back. Because success isn't just about what you do. It's also about who you do it with. Lesson 20. The wall is only in your mind. Picture this. You're sitting in front of your computer searching for a job. Suddenly you come across a posting that feels like it was made for you. You read the description, you get excited, and then your mind starts to tremble. They're not going to pick me. I don't have enough experience. There must be way better candidates. That knot tightens in your stomach, and instead of working on your resume, you close the tab and keep browsing like nothing happened. That wall that stopped you wasn't in the listing, or in the company, or in the competition. It was in your mind. Most of the time, it's not the world outside that holds us back. It's our own thinking, convincing us we're not enough before we've even tried. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus was born into slavery, shackled and stripped of rights. Can you imagine a harsher limit? And yet, he refused to live trapped in that mental prison. He used the only thing no one could take from him, his thoughts. That's how he freed himself from the inside long before he was ever free on the outside. He never let the limitations others placed on him become his truth, because if he had believed it was impossible to study or teach philosophy as a slave, he never would have reached Rome or inspired Marcus Aurelius. You can train your mind in that same way. Let's go back to the job example. Next time you see an opportunity that makes you feel nervous, try this. First, catch that inner voice saying, "I'm not enough," and rewrite it. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about remembering that growth is always possible. Instead of saying, "I can't," say, "I'm going to try and I'll grow through it." That simple shift is like knocking out the first brick in the wall. Second, take action, even if your hand is shaking. Don't wait to feel ready. Write the resume. Send it, even if doubt is whispering in your ear. Marcus Aurelius said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." That discomfort you feel isn't a sign that you should stop. It's the sign that this is exactly where you need to go. And third, whatever the result, see it as training. If you're not selected, that doesn't mean you're worthless. It means you've learned something that will make you better next time. Failure stops being a sentence when you treat it as part of the process. That's what the Stoics practiced every day, turning every obstacle into practice, into strength. This doesn't only apply to work. Look around. How many times have you stopped yourself from talking to someone new because you thought you'd embarrass yourself? How often have you quit on trying a sport, learning a language, or starting a project just because your first attempt felt clumsy, and you already labeled it as a failure? That's the real limit, not what's outside, what's inside. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he was right. Most of the time when you don't act, it's not because you tried and failed. It's because you imagined failure, and that was enough to stop you. That wall you keep seeing in front of you, you built it. And here's the interesting part. Centuries later, modern psychology reached the same conclusion. Carol Dweck, one of the world's most influential researchers, speaks about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. When you tell yourself, "I'm not good at this," your brain responds as if it's a permanent fact. But when you say, "I'm not good at this yet," your brain opens up. It starts to learn, to adapt. It's the same lesson the Stoics taught. You are not defined by what's happening today, but by how you choose to respond to it. If you want to become indifferent to the trembling caused by these made-up limits, start challenging them in small ways. Do something uncomfortable every single day. Apply to a job even if you don't meet every requirement. Talk to a stranger even if your voice shakes. Try a new skill even if you look ridiculous at first. Every time you push through that wall, your mind gets stronger and the wall gets smaller. In the end, there's no magic pill like in the movies. What you do have is the certainty that your brain is shaped by repetition. If you keep training it to stay in your comfort zone, it will grow weaker. If you train it to break through, it will grow stronger. So now you know, don't believe the voice that says you can't, because you can. And when you really understand that, you'll stop trembling in front of a wall that was only ever in your mind. Now, my friend, I've got a challenge for you. Think of that mental wall that always stops you. It could be sending a resume, starting a project, speaking up, anything. Write it down in the comments and share the first step you're going to take to break through it. Don't just say it, commit to it. And remember, every time you put it into words, the wall gets a little smaller. Lesson 21. The trap of waiting for the perfect moment. Picture this, you've spent months talking about your big idea. I'm going to start my YouTube channel, you say with excitement. You've devoured tutorials, bought a camera that looks like it came straight from a movie set, and filled a notebook with brilliant ideas. Every page is a map to your success. But there's one detail. You never open it. Because you're waiting for that magical day when the sun shines just right. You have 0 dark circles, and your voice sounds like a radio host's. And of course, that day never comes. Meanwhile, the folder called Channel on your computer stays empty, like a museum with no exhibits. It's like standing in a train station where dozens of trains pass by every day, heading to incredible places. But you don't get on any of them because you're waiting for that special train, the one with velvet seats, soft music, and perfect coffee service. The problem is that train doesn't exist, and while you wait, other passengers are already traveling, collecting stories and experiences while you stay on the platform. The same thing could have happened to Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, if she had waited. In her 20s, she worked selling fax machines door to door and hated her job. One day, before heading out, she cut the legs off her pantyhose so they wouldn't show under her pants. Something so simple became her spark. She wanted to sell the idea, but there was a problem. She knew nothing about fashion, had no contacts, and certainly no money for a big company launch. The logical thing would have been to wait until she got trained or found an expert partner. But she didn't. She went out, bought a pair of expensive pantyhose, cut them herself, and started showing them to friends, then to stores, until a major chain placed an order. The prototype was imperfect, the packaging was basic, and she took the catalog photos herself. Years later, Spanx became a multi-million-dollar brand, and she became the youngest self-made female billionaire in the US. See the point? If she had waited for the perfect product, where would she be now? Still ringing doorbells to sell fax machines. The Stoics would have found this idea of waiting for perfection absurd. Epictetus put it simply, the best way to guarantee success is to act. For them, action was the antidote to paralysis, and that paralysis is exactly what feeds your weak version, the one that convinces you tomorrow will be better, that now's not the time, that you're missing something before you can start. Here's where I want you to take this seriously, my friend. If you're waiting for conditions to be perfect, you're betting on a ticket that's never going to be issued. What you need isn't perfection, it's movement. So replace the word perfect with functional. Your project doesn't have to be 100% ready to start. If it's at 50%, it's enough to get moving. Think about Ali Abdaal, doctor and content creator, who talks about the minimum viable version. Launching before you're ready not only speeds up your learning but also smashes the mental barrier of waiting. Also, make the first version of what you want and share it with someone you trust. Not so they can tell you if it's perfect, but to force yourself to take the next step. If you tell them, I'll show you my first video on Tuesday, there's no turning back. That external commitment is a simple but powerful trick to stop postponing. Finally, every time you feel it's not the moment, ask yourself, is this a real obstacle or fear in disguise? And be careful. Fear is a good actor. It can show up dressed as a logical excuse. Better wait until I have more time. I need one more course first. I don't have the ideal equipment yet. No, that's just a script your weak version feeds you to keep you still. Make it more fun. Next time you hesitate, picture your weak version sitting in a comfy chair, eating popcorn, and clapping every time you delay something. Ask yourself if you want to keep giving them that free show. Remember, nobody starts ready. Podcaster Jordan Harbinger says it in his interviews. The first times are uncomfortable, awkward, and sometimes even embarrassing. But those first times are what put you on the path. There's no way to skip them. The perfect train doesn't exist. The ones that have already passed aren't coming back. And every time you let one go, your weak version is smiling from the platform. So get on the next one that comes along, even if the seats are hard and the ride is slower. That journey, with its flaws and lessons, is the one that takes you to living as your best self. Lesson 22. Live one day as your best self. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. How would your day look if you woke up with the mindset of someone unstoppable? If you were disciplined, confident, and focused? If every decision you made aligned with your best self? What would you do differently? Today, you are not you. At least not the version of yourself that has been putting off your potential. Today, you are going to live as the person you've always wanted to be. So let's play a game. You are the main character in a movie. But not just any movie, it's like The Truman Show, but with one major difference. This time, you control the story. Picture this. From the moment you wake up, cameras are recording your every move. Millions of people are watching how you live this day. How do you want them to see you? You get up without hesitation, without hitting snooze. You take a cold shower because you are in control. You eat breakfast without distractions, without your phone in your hand. You dress with intention because today you are not someone who hides. You are someone who leads. You walk out the door with a different energy, standing tall, confident with every step. You arrive at work, and instead of heading straight to your desk with your head down, you walk in with presence. You greet people with certainty, make eye contact. You are not someone who blends into the background. You are someone who leaves an impact. And when it's time to make decisions, you don't hesitate. If a problem arises, instead of complaining or waiting for someone else to fix it, you take the initiative. You propose a solution. You speak with confidence. Today, you are not the version of yourself that avoids challenges. You are the version that faces them head-on. But this transformation isn't just at work. Today, you don't let anyone walk over you. If someone speaks to you disrespectfully, you don't lower your head like before. You set boundaries. If you used to stay quiet to avoid discomfort, today, you speak your mind with certainty. And in your personal life, things change too. Today, you decide to surprise your partner with a spontaneous date. Not because it's a special occasion, but because you are someone who values their relationships, someone who doesn't let routine dull them. You get home, and instead of mindlessly scrolling through social media, you train. And you don't train like someone who is trying to be disciplined. You train like someone who is disciplined. You push harder, challenge yourself more, because you are no longer the version that quits at the first sign of discomfort. And at the end of the day, you realize something. You didn't need motivation. You didn't need a miracle. You only needed to act like your best self. Look at Matthew McConaughey. Early in his career, no one took him seriously as an actor. Everyone saw him as the rom-com guy. But instead of accepting that identity, he decided to rewrite the story. He said, "No, I am a serious actor." For a while, he turned down roles, endured rejection, and waited for his moment. He acted like the actor he wanted to be before the world saw him that way, and eventually, he made it happen. So be like him. Fake it until you unleash your full potential. Because here's the big question. If you can do it for one day, what's stopping you from doing it every day? Epictetus put it simply, don't wait to become better. Start acting like someone better. You don't need to wait months to transform, you just need to prove it right now. Lesson 23. Discipline doesn't tremble. The alarm goes off. Yesterday you swore today would be different. You said, tomorrow I'll start changing. I'll wake up early, I'll train, I'll study, I'll make every minute count. But there you are, staring at the screen, hitting snooze, bargaining with yourself. Just 5 more minutes. And that's how the trembling begins. Not the trembling of the body, but of the mind, the one that looks for excuses not to follow through. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They knew that if they waited to feel like doing the right thing, they'd never do it. Because motivation is like that. It's a spark. It burns bright for a moment, then fades with the slightest breeze. Marcus Aurelius couldn't govern an empire by waking up each morning wondering if he was in the mood. Seneca put it another way. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. You see, it's not about waiting for the perfect mood. It's about having a system that carries you forward, even on the gray days. Now picture a baker. He gets up every morning at 4, whether it's cold, raining, or he's exhausted. No one asks if he feels like lighting the oven, kneading the dough, or prepping the yeast. He does it because his system doesn't depend on his mood. And thanks to that steady routine, everyone in town has fresh bread on the table. His secret isn't motivation, it's repeated discipline. A martial artist trains the same kick thousands of times. A musician practices scales every day, even when there's no concert. They don't do it because they feel like it, but because they know that when the real test comes, the body will repeat what's already ingrained. In that moment, it's not motivation that trembles. It's the person who didn't train. You can build that kind of steadiness too. Last night, maybe you watched an inspiring video, read a quote that lit a fire, and for a moment you felt unstoppable. You got hyped and said, tomorrow's the day. Tomorrow I'll get my life together. But what happened today? Fatigue, laziness, or even the tiniest distraction killed that spark. Start with something simple. Build small starting rituals. Don't rely on feeling ready to get moving. Create a trigger that leads straight into action. Maybe it's putting on your headphones, brewing your coffee before you study, or opening your notebook to a blank page. That gesture becomes the switch that powers up your system. Another key is to link what you do to who you are. Don't say, I'm going to try running. Say, I'm someone who runs every day. When it becomes part of your identity, it's no longer a task you might do. It's a part of you. That's your real armor against the trembling. It's not about being motivated. It's about living in line with who you say you are. And here's an important reminder. You don't have to do it perfectly. If you can't train for an hour, train for 10 minutes. If you can't read a whole chapter, read a page. Consistency doesn't break because of the size of the action. It breaks when you quit. The mistake isn't missing one day. It's giving up because you missed one. Systems are built through repetition, even if some days it's small or messy. And don't forget this. Don't cling to the emotion of the moment. Don't let the first burst of enthusiasm set your path. And don't let the lack of it steal your progress. Be indifferent to that swing. Do what needs to be done because it needs to be done, not because you feel like it. The Stoics acted from principle, not emotion. That's the secret that turns a distant goal into an inevitable result. Ask yourself, do you want your life to depend on a passing impulse or on a solid system that carries you even when everything else fails? Motivation trembles. Discipline doesn't. My friend, stop waiting for the spark. Build the fire with solid wood, with habits that don't burn out at the first gust of wind. A system like that doesn't depend on how you feel. It holds you up even on the days when everything shakes. And once you learn to rely on it, you're no longer living at the mercy of motivation. You become indifferent to the ups and downs of your mood because your path is already set. Lesson 24. Live one day as your transformed self. Imagine waking up tomorrow and getting an unexpected call. It's a film director telling you, I want you to play the leading role of your life tomorrow. No rehearsals, no time to improvise. Filming starts the moment you open your eyes, and everything you do from the first minute will be recorded. Your posture, your way of speaking, your decisions, everything. And this isn't just any role. It's the most important character of all. Your transformed self. The one who already exists inside you but who stays in the background while your weak version keeps hogging the spotlight. Think about what that day would look like. You wake up without hitting snooze, standing tall with an energy that shows even in the way you walk. You speak with confidence, without asking for permission to have a voice. You face problems calmly, as if you know you can solve them. You make decisions without waiting for anyone's approval, because you trust your own judgment. You're not acting like someone trying to change. You're acting like someone who already has. That's the difference that changes everything. Most people wait for the perfect moment to start behaving that way, as if transformation comes after some huge achievement or a change in circumstances. But no, my friend, transformation starts the day you decide to live as if you've already reached that point. And that's where the experiment gets powerful. One single day where you commit to being your strongest self, without compromise. This idea is deeply tied to one of Seneca's teachings. He said, "As soon as you begin to live, you should learn to die." It might sound harsh, but the meaning is simple. Don't let a single day go by without truly living, because there might not be another. If you know your time is limited, why spend one more day as a version that doesn't represent you? Living as your transformed self isn't about waiting for something to happen. It's about deciding it starts now. To make it real, begin with the first step. Clearly define how your best version acts on a normal day. Don't leave it in vague phrases like, "be more positive," or "have more discipline." Be specific. How do they walk? What do they say when offered something they're not interested in? How do they respond when life throws them a challenge? Write it down, because every character needs a script. Then commit to imitating them in absolutely everything for 24 hours, from the way you dress to how you answer a message. If your best self doesn't waste time on meaningless social media scrolling, you won't either that day. If they don't complain about every inconvenience, you'll find another way to express yourself. It's a game, but one that leaves a real mark. Finally, when the day ends, do an honest review. Don't beat yourself up for every slip, but notice where the imposter inside you took the stage. Did you shrug when you should have stood up for your idea? Did you say yes when you wanted to say no? Write it down and decide how you'll prevent it tomorrow. That repetition is what slowly buries the weak part and makes room for your best self to take the stage permanently. This exercise has a strange effect. Once you feel what it's like to live this way, you don't want to go back. You realize that much of what you thought you couldn't do wasn't a real limitation. It was just a habit. And that habit breaks the day you dare to act like your life depends on it. So now think, if you can live one whole day as your strongest self, what excuse do you have not to do it every day? It's not luck or a magical revelation. It's a repeated decision, a conscious choice not to give any more space to the version that holds you back. Because every day you leave your best self in the background is a day wasted. And you already know. We don't have enough days to throw any away. Lesson number 25. The war never ends. Imagine a warrior on the battlefield. He has fought with courage, endured exhaustion, and overcome obstacles. But at the end of the day, when he thinks it's all over, he looks around and realizes the hardest truth of all. The war never stops. Because every sunrise brings a new enemy, a new challenge, a new temptation to give up. And now tell me, what did you think? That by changing a few habits, by making better decisions for a while, you were done? Well, think again. The war against your weak version isn't a one-day battle. It's a war that must be fought every single day, because every morning that fragile version of yourself will try to take back control. It will try to convince you that skipping discipline for a day won't hurt, that you can ease up, that you've done enough. And that's where most people fall. Not because they didn't change, but because they never made that change permanent. Now, it's not just about avoiding a relapse. It's about making sure this process is sustainable. Because listen carefully, Changing for a month or two is not enough. If you don't turn this into a lifestyle, everything you've done up to this point will be worthless. Psychology explains this well. Our brain hates drastic change, and when it feels something isn't sustainable, it pushes us back to what's familiar. That's why so many people start strong but eventually lose their way, because they focused on making a huge effort instead of building a system they could actually maintain. So now you know, don't aim for perfection, aim for consistency. Marcus Aurelius summed it up in a single sentence. Behind everything you do, let there be one intention, to do it as someone strong and worthy. For him, this wasn't just a philosophy. It was a way of life. He knew that greatness isn't a place you reach and stay forever. It's a choice you make every single day. Now, how do you make this sustainable? First, make sure this change is real. Remember what we talked about before, because it's crucial. Don't tell yourself you're trying to improve. You are someone who improves. Don't think you want to be strong. You are strong. Your identity shouldn't rely on what you achieved yesterday. It should be reinforced by what you choose today. Second, have a clear strategy for the moments when your weak version tries to return. Those days will come. You cannot rely on motivation, nor can you expect to always feel like doing the right thing. What actually works is structuring your life in a way that your best version doesn't depend on your mood in the moment. Third, understand that change won't always be exciting. Many times it won't be. So what can you do in those moments? Reinvent yourself. Every now and then, you need to level up. Like a warrior who refuses to let his sword rust, you cannot stick to the same routine forever. What does this mean? That every time you start feeling comfortable, challenge yourself again. Find something that forces you to grow. Shift your focus, set a new challenge, test yourself in something new. So here we are, my friend. You've reached the end of this path, but in reality, this isn't an end. It's a starting point. Now tell me, are you going to let your weak version rise again? Or are you going to make sure that every day is another proof that you've defeated it for good? Lesson 26. Luck trembles, preparation doesn't. Let me ask you something. How many times have you said, "That person got so lucky"? How many times have you looked at someone who achieved something you want and thought they were simply in the right place at the right time? And now the important part. Have you ever asked yourself if maybe it wasn't luck at all, but preparation? The Stoics were very clear on this. They didn't sit around waiting for fortune to smile on them. They knew the only thing truly within their control was being ready for whatever came. And in the end, what looks like luck to others is often the invisible result of years of discipline. Picture this, a surprise exam at school. The teacher walks in, drops the test on the table, and announces, "You've got a quiz today." Some students immediately start to tremble. They sweat, glance around, looking for an escape. They never opened the book, were counting on luck to save them, and now they're trapped. But others just smile. Not because they knew the test was coming, but because they'd been preparing for a while. The difficulty doesn't surprise them. They studied for it in advance. They don't tremble because they've already trained their calm. That's how it works in life. Those who prepare don't rely on motivation or chance or whatever luck has in store. Their strength comes from knowing that when the opportunity shows up, even suddenly, without warning, they already have the tools ready. That indifference to the unexpected is exactly what the Stoics practiced every day. They didn't try to predict the future. They trained to be ready for any future. People often think those who succeed are lucky, but if you look closely, you'll see they're usually the ones who practiced the same thing over and over in the shadows, until they were ready to shine in the light. It's easy to see a past exam and call it luck. It's harder to see the hours of study and silence that made it possible. Now here's what you can do. Imagine you're asked, out of the blue, to speak in a meeting, and you tremble because you've never trained yourself to speak out loud. Something unexpected happens at work and you freeze because you've never practiced how to act under pressure. An opportunity you've been waiting for finally arrives and you let it slip because you've convinced yourself you're not ready. That's not bad luck. That's lack of preparation. So don't wait for the test to start training. Stoic preparation means anticipating difficulties in your mind before they appear. Imagine the problems that could show up on your path and rehearse how you'd respond. If life gave you that surprise exam tomorrow, what would you say? What strategy would you use? That mental rehearsal makes you stronger than any lucky break ever could. This reminds me of a chess player. Picture a championship final. Both players sit down at the board. The clock starts ticking. Who trembles? The one who hopes to improvise. Who stays calm? The one who's practiced so many games, so many scenarios, that no surprise can throw them off. The pressure is the same, but preparation makes the difference. Life is no different. The ones who tremble are those hoping luck will play the game for them. The ones who prepare move their pieces with confidence because they've already trained for every possibility in silence. Another way to train is to build your own invisible work. You don't need applause. You don't need anyone to recognize your effort each day. Do it because you know the opportunity will come, and when it does, you won't be trembling like the rest. You'll stand firm because you've been building quiet preparation for months, even years. And most of all, understand this: you don't control luck, but you do control your training. You can't choose when that call, that challenge, that opportunity will show up. But you can choose whether it finds you weak or strong, trembling or indifferent. That's the difference between someone who hides behind luck and someone who relies on preparation. The Stoics didn't lie to themselves with the idea that fate owed them anything. They trained daily because they knew life always brings surprise exams, and they wanted to be ready to pass them all. What looked like luck was really just the inevitable result of their consistency. My friend, stop asking when your big opportunity will come. Start building today the version of you who'll be ready when it does. Luck doesn't exist for those who prepare, because they don't need it. All that exists is the calm of someone who knows life can throw any challenge their way, and no matter what, they won't tremble. So tell me, are you going to keep waiting for luck to decide for you? Or will you prepare so nothing can shake you? Make it clear in the comments by writing, "I prepare for everything." That way, we'll all know you're part of this community that trains its mind every day. Lesson 27. Time is your most valuable currency. Every morning, without asking, someone deposits a silent treasure into your account. 24 coins. No interest, no savings, no way to keep them for tomorrow, no advance if you run out. And when the day ends, whatever you didn't use vanishes as if it never existed. You know it, I know it. Yet we keep living as if that account were eternal. Think about it. How many of those coins do you spend on things you can't even remember by the end of the day? I'm sure it's happened to you. Sunday night, with fresh energy, you promise yourself, "This week will be different." But Monday comes and you start paying with your coins without even noticing. 5 on endless scrolling while you eat breakfast. 3 on meetings that could have been a quick message. 2 on conversations that just drain you, and a few more on arguments that change nothing. By the end of the week, when Friday arrives, it's not that you've run out of time, it's that your balance was spent on nonsense. You've moved a lot of coins, but invested in nothing that counts. It's like having a bag of gold and using it to buy smoke. This isn't just a modern problem. Throughout history, those who lived as their best selves understood that time was the most fragile and precious resource they had. Ozan Varol, former NASA engineer, learned this suddenly. From the outside, his life looked perfect. A stable job as a university professor, recognition, security. But inside, he felt like he was spending his coins each day on something that didn't fulfill him. His choice wasn't impulsive, but it was conscious. He left the university and began investing his days in writing, creating projects, and living in a way that made him feel alive. And that's the key. It's not about how much time you have, but about where you put it. You don't need anyone to tell you that time is your most valuable asset. But the Stoics didn't just repeat it. They practiced it with surgical discipline. Seneca made it clear, it's not that we have little time, it's that we waste much. And he himself mastered the art of avoiding it. Surrounded by people seeking his advice, inviting him to banquets and meetings that were pure social theater, he still knew when to say no. He refused the unnecessary without guilt, because he understood that each banquet was one less page written. Each empty conversation was a deep thought left unborn. He reserved sacred hours to reflect, write, and sharpen his mind, like a warrior who guards his sword. He wasn't antisocial, he was strategic. And here's the lesson. Every yes you give to what doesn't matter is a silent no to what could change your life. Now, my friend, it's time to look yourself in the eye. Where are you spending your coins? Be honest. You don't have a lack of time, you have a lack of clear priorities. And here's where you can start changing it. Choose just one action that, if you complete it today, will make your day worthwhile. Not 5, not 10, 1. Put it at the very start of your day before noise and interruptions steal your coins without you realizing. If you want to start living as your best self, wishing isn't enough. You have to kill the part of you that spends time as if it were free. The version that says, I'll do it later, while opening another tab, that accepts commitments you don't want, that excuses itself with, I didn't have time, when in reality, it gave it away. Then protect that moment like a treasure. Turn off notifications, close anything unnecessary, tell whoever you must that you're not available. It sounds simple, but this is where most people fail. No, it's not that we lack discipline. It's that we leave the door open to everything that steals our focus. At the end of the day, do a quick review, not to punish yourself, but to see if your coins went where you wanted or if you gave them away. If the answer doesn't please you, adjust tomorrow. If it does, figure out how to repeat it, because what gets repeated becomes habit, and habits are the quiet but powerful way to kill the weak version that holds you back. Every coin you don't use to move forward is one someone else is using to write your story for you. And believe me, my friend, you don't want that. Today you have 24. Tomorrow maybe you'll have them too. But one day, without warning, they'll stop coming. And on that day, you won't want to look back and realize you spent them holding on to what you always wanted to let go. So cut the useless spending. Kill the part of you that settles. And start investing as if your life depended on it, because it does. Lesson 28. Spot the traitor in your head. Picture this. You're the king of a prosperous kingdom. You have power, resources, and everything you need to expand your borders. But without you knowing, one of your closest advisors is working against you, always with gentle words, always with reasons that sound smart. He never yells, never threatens. He simply plants doubts and advises you to delay important decisions until you're more prepared. That advisor, my friend, lives in your head too. It's that voice that convinces you to stay comfortable, instead of moving toward what will make you stronger. And if you don't identify him and kick him out of your court, he'll keep ruling in your place. I'm sure you've seen him in action more than once. You leave work determined to train. You even laid out your clothes in the morning so there'd be no excuses. But just when you're about to change, there he is. That calm voice saying, "Today was a tough day. Better rest and do it tomorrow with more energy." It sounds logical. It even feels like it cares for you. So you buy into it. You sit down just to relax. And before you know it, you're lying down watching pointless videos and eating something you don't need. The gym has vanished from your day like it was never there. That's the traitor. He doesn't show up as an enemy, but as a friend. He speaks your language, uses your memories, even your own tone of voice. And worst of all, he has a memory. He knows exactly what to say to keep you from acting. He knows which excuses hit you the hardest. One day it's, "You're tired." Another it's, "You deserve it." And another, "It's fine to skip it just this once." But every time he wins a negotiation, you lose. And you don't just lose that one action. You feed the part of you that wants to keep you weak, still, and predictable. Epictetus put it clearly in a phrase that, if applied, changes the game completely. Don't explain your philosophy, Embody it. That inner voice, no matter how convincing it sounds, is not you. It's the echo of your most comfortable habits, your resistance to change, your fear of discomfort. Every time you engage with it and give it power, you make it your real ruler. And a Stoic does not negotiate with what makes him weaker. Modern psychology has already named this mental trick. Psychologist Nick Wignall calls it self-sabotage disguised as self-protection. What does that mean? That your mind dresses up as a friend to convince you to avoid discomfort. It tells you, rest, you deserve it. Or do it tomorrow, today's not a good day. It seems like protection, but it's a trap. It saves you effort now, but robs you of progress later. So, how do you take power away from this traitor advisor? Give him a ridiculous name. Yes, you heard that right. The more absurd, the better. It could be Sir Excuses or Count Laziness. Why does it work? Because when you name him, you stop feeling like that voice is you. He becomes an external character, a jester in your court you don't have to obey. Picture yourself on the couch and suddenly hearing, "Don't go to the gym today, start tomorrow instead." That's not your voice. It's Count Laziness trying to sneak into the throne room. And you, as the king, decide if he comes in or not. This little trick turns a vague inner dialogue into a clear conversation where you're in charge. Also, every time he shows up, answer out loud, "Thanks for your opinion, but you don't decide." Saying it interrupts the flow of excuses before it grows. If you think about it, that voice often wins simply because we let it talk without limits. It's like a pushy salesman at your door. If you don't cut him off, you'll end up buying something you don't need. You can even add some humor. Look in the mirror, smile, and say, "You don't decide," as if you were the lead in your own movie. You'll be surprised how that simple act breaks the inertia. Killing the part of you that holds you back isn't a dramatic event that happens once and it's over. It's a slow execution, where every victory counts. And every time you choose to act instead of give in, that voice loses strength. Until one day it's no longer the advisor in your court, it's a powerless servant. Next time you hear that voice offering you rest when you know you should act, ask yourself, who's ruling today? Me or my inner traitor? Because as long as he's in charge, you'll be trapped in a kingdom where comfort is law and greatness is denied entry. Killing your weak version starts with cutting the tongue of that imposter and returning the throne to its rightful ruler. You. The world isn't going to give you guarantees or a path without stumbles, and that's okay, because you don't need them. What truly matters is that you're able to move even in the midst of doubt, to choose action over trembling, to make effort your natural ground. That's what it means to live like a Stoic, not expecting ease, but growing through every blow life throws your way. And once you understand this, you'll see that real change doesn't come when fear disappears. It comes when you stop obeying it. That's where your mind is set free. That's where your strength begins. If you've made it this far, I want you to make it clear in the comments with this phrase: I move forward firmly, even when I tremble inside. Reaching the end of this video is no accident. It means something in you wants to grow, and that already sets you apart from most. Subscribe and share this video with someone who needs it. That simple gesture helps us keep spreading this message of growth. On screen, you'll find a playlist to go even deeper. Click and let's keep learning together.